Hi, welcome to Pittsburgh Sportsline. Had a pretty interesting sports week, a lot to talk about. I'm Mike Migliori. I'm with Chip Hayner, Smoking Jim Frazier, Al Levine, the Talking Machine. And before we get into what's on our mind, I want to make sure that everybody knows that what I say or what Chip or Jim or Al says, whatever we say, that's on us. We don't represent the station. We don't represent each other all that much. And it's not back on the show or the producer. It's on me or whoever says it. Saying that, Al, what's on your mind?
What's on my mind is about a year ago, one of my heroes, my father, Saul Levine, passed away on Father's Day, and it so happens that our show, and he was a sports nut. Matter of fact, my biggest fan, Hope, and the second biggest fan, Gary, if you pan down, you can see the referee shirt, the last referee shirt he wore back in, I think it was 1983, even with his whistle. I think he called it technical on the coach, but I'm not sure. We might have to ask his buddy Pat Carmack, one of his best friends, the retired coach from Langley High School, and he could give you some insights there. But my dad, I've always talked about him being in the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, and I wanted to show a picture of him and his brother Shmuley, who was actually a Hall of Famer from the Pittsburgh Ironmen, the first professional basketball team in Pittsburgh, back around the 1940s. I'm not sure the exact year.
Al, I don't hate to interrupt, but which is?
My dad is on my right, your left, I guess that is, Mike.
All right.
And my uncle's on my left, your right.
Sorry to interrupt that.
No, good point. Thank you. And the people watching, any relatives and friends, my dad knew tons of people out here, and any of you that know George Couples Stadium, that was one of my dad's better friends. And before my dad had passed, George Couples offered to give my dad a video of some of his City League Championship basketball games. But guess what? We never got them. So in honor of my dad, here you go, Dad. I know you'd enjoy the show. You'd love talking to these guys, sports. And I think he might even out-talk Al Levine, the Talking Machine. So thank you.
Thanks, Al. Jim, what's on your mind?
How can I follow that? Congratulations. Want to send out a shout out to all the fathers out there. Belated Happy Father's Day. Happy belated Father's Day.
Thank you.
Al, and it wouldn't be Father's Day without mentioning some outstanding fathers that's out here. New York Jets, Antonio Cromartie. They got 9 kids and can't name them all, And it wouldn't be Father's Day without my man Tiki Barber, who left his pregnant wife, who was having twins, to shack up with a white blonde intern half his age. And then you got my main man, the face of the National Football League, Tom Brady, who left his girlfriend that was pregnant with his child to marry a supermodel, and a friend of mine, our leader, the mayor, Luke Ravenstahl, who left his wife and kids for a tenderoni. You got my vote. Hey, I recently went to a great event at the Meadows for Hugathon Pittsburgh. It was very fun. I was out there with my main man, Magic Mike Migliori, and Al Levine, the Talking Machine, and I was so proud of Al being interviewed on the track. The horse races was great. I want to get back out there. Really enjoyed myself. Did not want to leave as early as I did, but met a beautiful young lady out there, Hope. Oh, is she beautiful, and her great husband, Gary, a former outstanding wrestler for Bell Vernon High School, and also did a little cage wrestling at Langley High School. But hey, last but not least, farewell to one of the all-time greats, LT LaDamian Tomlinson, who stepped down. I remember quite a few years back, I was scouting him his senior year at TCU. They was playing in their rivalry game against SMU. That's one of the heated rivalries of all time. And I seen number 5 out there, and I predicted at that time that he would be the best back to come into the National Football League since Emmitt Smith, and he sure lived up to that. So enjoy your retirement, LT. You was one of the all-time greats.
Thanks, Jim. Makes us be ashamed to not see LT play anymore. Chip? Let's guess.
Well, let's guess.
What's on your mind?
Let's guess.
What's been on your mind for the last couple
culmination
years?
of the Roger Clemens trial is finally finished. Okay, 10 weeks in the
What's the
courtroom
verdict?
and
What's
10
the
hours,
verdict?
10
What's the
hours
verdict?
in the
Tell us. I can't wait. Sorry, Chip.
10
I can't
hours.
wait.
They met and they came
Deliberated.
up with
They
a
deliberated.
not guilty verdict on every single account.
Wow.
Now, I think what this does for us is absolutely nothing. Basically, the United States government has made a complete fool out of itself because they took 4 years and millions of dollars and brought in a bunch of crap witnesses that nobody could believe. And I
say
don't really
crap
believe that anybody thought that Roger Clemens didn't use steroids. They just couldn't believe the people that were accusing him more than they could not believe him. So, that's what's going on there. But to speak to this whole steroid thing and the United States government going after athletes, they need to just stop. Quit wasting the taxpayers' money. There's a lot of things that could be fixed with the money that they're wasting. The steroid era is over. It's dead and it's buried. And I don't understand why we continue to try to dig it up and reopen old wounds. Whatever happened, happened. You can't change the past. And not punishing these people. I think it's just ridiculous. I want this to be the end of it. I'm tired of hearing about the steroid era. And let me give the United States government a little piece of advice. Lay off Lance Armstrong. You're going to get it tattooed again. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, thanks, Chip. And let me give you just a little bit of insight on it. I've said a million times that there is nothing worse than with a reporter with nothing to write. Well, if there is, it's a board senator. They'll do something as stupid as you could think of, no matter what. Chip, Pirates are doing pretty good. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a tough week for the Pirates this past week. They went to Baltimore and they got their heads handed to them 3 times in a row and lost the first game in Cleveland, and they bounced back very nicely. Won Saturday and Sunday. Pedro Alvarez awoke from the dead. 4 home runs in 2 days.
Chip, I got to interrupt you. What was he threatened with? Did you hear that rumor?
I didn't hear that.
I'm
That's all
sorry.
just hearsay.
I'll bring that up.
But you got major production out of Alex Presley, who spent a little time in Indianapolis, regaining his swing and his confidence. And Pedro Alvarez was on fire. He raised his average from 176 to 209. And, and I'm looking at his statistics for the year. He's leading the team in home runs. He's second on the team in RBIs. He's also leading the team in strikeouts. And I think, what we've got here is we've got, major league talent, a potential power hitter, but he's going to be that guy that's going to strike out 120 times a year. He may hit you 25 or 30 home runs, but, that's all he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's ever going to hit 330, 340. He may be a 230 or 240 hitter. There's plenty of millionaires banking checks that, have had less talent than he's got. So tonight they've got the Twins in town for a 3-game stand, followed by the Detroit Tigers. So, we've got some exciting baseball coming up this week. The Pirates going to have to make some decisions, I think, with the pitching staff. Brad Lincoln looks like he's struggling mightily, and I know they're waiting for Jeff Karstens to come back off his rehab assignment before they send him down. But, they need to do something to help Lincoln because, he started out the year well, and the last 3 or 4 outings have been just terrible.
You make some good points, Chip, but I think it goes back to Clint Hurdle had a little talk with him. I think Clint Hurdle's actually doing a good job, the best he can with the talent he has. I don't see him doing much better than what he has. But I think if you put that little birdie whispering in Pedro Alvarez's ear that, guess what, you might visit the minor leagues, and if he's not bright enough to figure out that he's not going there, who's going to tell him? So all of a sudden, 4 home runs, 6 RBIs. What did he have? 3 or 4 extra base hits on top of it. His average is smoking it, no pun intended, at 209 now. Last week it was 203 when we were on the show, and I said send him down. So Clint must have a little insight to our show here, so I appreciate that. And they do have to do something with pitching. It's ironic that we were talking about the pitching staff is overloaded. I think somebody called in and talked about Hanrahan should be traded away because we have an overabundance of pitchers. What's your buddy going to do now? Have Mike call in now, right?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to talk to him. But talking about what the Pirates need to do move-wise, there's been some rumors that the Pirates are one of 5 teams that are interested in Kevin Youkilis, the third baseman from the Red Sox. And my personal opinion is I think it'd be a huge mistake for the Pirates to go after him, to give up any of the young talent they have for a broken down player past his prime who's got back problems to start with. I think once again, if we were to do something like that and assume that contract, we'd just be throwing money out the window for somebody that's well past their prime. And I think if the Pirates are looking to make a trade, another direction would be the best way to look on that one.
Chip, there's a chance 5 teams are interested because there could be $7 million in cash given to the team that takes them. So Nutting might be happy with a little extra cash for now.
I'll tell you right now.
No, I don't think they should.
If you gave me the option of Pedro Alvarez at third base or Kevin Youkilis, I'd settle for Pedro Alvarez.
I'm not saying that he should, but his MO in the past has been to do that. And I agree with Chip that they should not trade anybody right now with dumb trades like that.
The fact that they're willing to give you $7 million should tell you something. First, the biggest one is that the 5 teams that are not that are interested in Youkilis, one of them is not the Red Sox, and that's where he plays. If they want to get rid of him that badly, I don't think he's worth taking, even with the $7 million. Although if he could drive my car for me, I'd take the $7 million. I'd keep him busy for the rest of the season. As far as Hurdle, well, we've already I've talked and said I don't think Hurdle's the guy to take him where they want to go. Again, everything by the book, pitch counts, this, that. He has no creativity as far as I can see, except he wanted to pitch bat the pitcher 8th, I guess, for a little while earlier in the season or last year or whenever he tried that. Other than that, nothing original out of the guy. And to quote one of my all-time favorite talk show host, I don't think he could lead silent prayer.
And what do you think of that, Smoking Jim Frazier?
I got to agree with my main man, Magic.
What a surprise there. He pumped you up.
But and they are after the Twins. They're going to get a guy that does have a lot of creativity, that is a great baseball manager when Detroit comes in here, and Jim Leland. The one thing we know from Jim Leland's history is he's going to do everything in his power not to let Andrew McCutchen beat Detroit. So the Pirates are going to have to come up with something. They're going to have to pick up their bats because they're not going to give Andrew anything good to hit when Detroit comes to town.
It's funny how you bring up Jimmy Leland. I met him at the new favorite place of yours called the Meadows Racetrack and Casino, back when it was just the racetrack.
In the smoke room?
Here, let me tell you this. I see this little short guy, and he looks familiar. And my trainer, Dane Snyder, who you didn't get to meet, and Doug Snyder are there. They're not racing that night. They go, you want to meet Jimmy Leland? I said, where's he at? They go, look at that chain smoker over there. His brother-in-law owned horses with their stable, some pretty good horses. So he sits down in a couple minutes. He's asking me who I like. And I go, you're the expert. You tell me. So we both picked a horse. And I never saw a guy, a big league manager, do this. He got up from the seat, and it's on the TV. He's running at the TV. He's so into it in the horse racing. Now that's the guy I want to manage my team. He was passionate about that race. Needless to say, Smoking Jim, we both won on that ticket. So, and that's my Jimmy Leland story. Yeah. And then he went to Florida and started winning a championship there. That was right before he went down for the team.
We've talked before about managers that, like, in order to send a message, will bench a star player or, set him down for a few days or something. Jim Leland will get into fistfights with him in the dugout. So if you can fit into a fistfight with your star player, that's the manager that I want for my team.
You're right.
I know I'm right.
I like the guy. I'm right about him too there.
Well, my opinion, differs from Mike's and Jim's as, in relationship to Clint Hurdle. I think Clint Hurdle was a big part of the reason why the Pirates are again relevant. I like what he's done with the team, but, we are all entitled to our opinions.
Even if we disagree. I agree to disagree. And I think Clint Hurdle is, again, doing the best he can with the talent he has and what he's been given and what he has coming up the pipeline. Is there a hitter in the minor leagues that we could bring up? Maybe somebody on the panel knows, or call in 412-831-3304. Let us know. I
think that Hurdle owes his job and his life to the pitching coach, Searage, who is carrying the team.
Oh, Searage has done an amazing job with basically last year. You saw it, the turnaround the Pirates pitching staff made in the first half of the season and then got completely worn out. But, that was the same pitching staff that the 2 years prior, and I can't remember the pitching coach's name for Kerrigan or whatever it was.
Yeah, Kerrigan.
He did absolutely nothing with the pitching staff. And
he did something. He ruined it.
Searage has done more with less. And he does deserve recognition.
Well, who's the hitting coach? Did anybody find out who the hitting coach is?
Neither is Clint Hurdle.
Because he's a hitting coach.
What you need to do is go down to the game and see whoever's wearing a bag over his head in the dugout. That's the batting coach.
Well, you got to give Hurdle some credit, though. Remember that gazelle in the outfield, Tabata? Now he's doing that on the bases. He did beat out an infield hit, didn't he, Chip?
Yes, he did.
Okay, so I'm all in with Clint Hurdle right now.
Hey, you guys mind now? We have, not to change the subject, get right back to the Pirates, but I just jotted it down. I got it's going to be a great professional fight card here in the city of Pittsburgh, Saturday, June 23rd in the rough streets of Green Tree, at the Green Tree Sports Complex. And the headline of that card is going to be lightweight Lightning Rod Solka. He's fighting a 10-rounder. But everybody needs to come out to see this up-and-coming welterweight named Sammy Vasquez. Almost made it to the Olympics. He's fighting Gabe Morris. Here's a fight that's intriguing to everybody. Hard-hitting guy from the South Hills named Jason Bergman. Power shot, knocks everybody out. He's fighting a guy that they're dragging in from Detroit that is 7'1". Come on out and see Julius Long, 7'1" from Detroit.
That's a large size human being.
What weight class is that? Or what?
That'll be heavyweight.
Heavyweight.
You think?
Probably in the super
flyweight. I wanted to see if he's a string bean there.
But we plan on a lot of knockouts that evening. Paul, we got a lot of heavyweights. Paul Zeiss is fighting Daniel Martez in another heavyweight bout. But come on out. We circled the globe because we're bringing in the Puerto Rican Prince, Jose Carabella. is fighting a local guy, Justin Johnson, in the junior welterweight bout. And we're going to close the show out with Larry Blakely, middleweight, fighting John Farley. So everybody come on out and enjoy the night. My co-host that night will be none other than the legendary former heavyweight boxing champ of the world, Michael Moore. So we'll be there, and there will be no George Foreman grills on site that night.
Hey, Smoking Jim, guess who's got ringside seats there?
Who?
You're looking at. I'll be there with one of my friends. We'll be sitting ringside there. He just said, do you know where the fight is in Green Tree? I said, that's across from my old home, across the Parkway West. And I said, I think a friend of mine's announcing the fight. He goes, who's that? So I'll have to introduce you.
And bring plenty of business cards.
Hold it. Wait. Hold it, Joe. Joe. Deal him.
He's got it down.
Hey, we got a couple things.
Got to separate by color. Separate it by
black
color.
and white. Black and white.
You got a
black
Wax
and
for
yellow.
House deck of cards. It's got 5 aces.
Black and yellow. And I want to thank the Meadows Racetrack and Casino and Bistecca Lounge for their upper level suites. Since we had to throw some business cards out, they gave us great support at the Hugathon. And if you want to hear a race that's called by an announcer who's one of the best, the legendary Roger Houston, he gave a nice shout out to the Hugathon of Pittsburgh and Alan Levine and the racetrack.
I'm so proud of you, man.
And my man set me up so I was on the Jumbotron, and I didn't get a video of it.
So before we get too far away from the
we're running everywhere.
before we get too far away from the baseball discussion, now that Roger Clemens has been found not guilty, I mean, he's going to be a unanimous selection to the Hall of Fame now, right? When he becomes eligible this fall, Roger Clemens never sees the Hall of Fame the same way Pete Rose, Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, and Rafael Palmeiro, all of those people tainted by that. So it'll be even more interesting once Barry gets left off the Hall of Fame ballots, and Roger Clemens as well.
Both of them are up this year, right?
Yes, they are.
I'll tell you, I guarantee you Barry Bonds gets into the Hall of Fame.
I don't know. I might take a piece
Guarantee
of that.
Me
Because
too.
these sports writers
I'm
are
taking a piece of
horrible.
that.
They're vindictive.
You know what? Sports writers. First off,
Let's take a
sports
piece.
writers are idiots. Okay, basically, they shouldn't be the people voting for the Hall.
Right.
Of Fame. The two people in Pittsburgh that vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame are Ron Cook and the other yo-yo with their glasses and the fuzzy hair. Right? Are you serious, Smizek? Yeah, exactly, Bob Smizek. Honest to God, do either of these guys even watch baseball? If you read their articles, you think probably not. Unless somebody from the Steelers organization calls up and tells them what to write, they pretty much just babble on. How do these people get to vote for who goes into the Baseball Hall of Fame? Personally, I believe that the people who should vote for the Hall of Fame are the people that are in the Hall of Fame.
And I second that. I think you should take it out of the sports writers' hands, because they report events. They shouldn't have any decision over what somebody's bled and sweat and put their body on the line for 20 years and then say, well, because I didn't like you or I didn't care for the way you carried yourself, you're not going to get my vote. I think that's a bunch of BS.
And not only that, since the Hall of Fame should be about your performance on the baseball field, right, there should be a criteria that said if you've won 300 games as a pitcher, you should be in the Hall of Fame. If you've hit 500 home runs as a batter, you should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, how can you say this guy deserves it, this guy doesn't? My favorite is the yo-yo said, well, he's a Hall of Famer, but not a first ballot Hall of Famer. What's that mean?
Well,
you're in the Hall of Fame, or you're not.
As a matter of fact, I don't believe that anybody has been unanimous. Well, with maybe the exception of Clemente, but the unanimous selections into the Hall of Fame don't happen. I mean, Cobb.
It's never happened.
Ty Cobb didn't get elected into the Hall of Fame. Hannes Wagner not on the first ballot. And players like that and what they meant to baseball in the first half of the 20th century, what would be your reason for not electing them? People like George Brett, these guys.
Too much tar on his back.
What about Nolan Ryan?
Too much tar.
Nolan Ryan struck out more players than any other pitcher. He threw 7 no-hitters. The next closest was Sandy Koufax with 4. 7 no-hitters, yet some idiot did not vote for him to go into the Hall of Fame. What they should have did is took those ballots and looked to see who was missing, who did not vote for him. Not only never let him vote again, they should break his finger so he can never write again. That's just ridiculous. You don't think this guy's a Hall of Fame baseball player?
Well, and to get off the Hall of Fame, Mike was mentioning 7 no-hitters for Nolan Ryan. Guy pitching for the Mets in his last 2 games has pitched consecutive 1-hitters, which is a fairly amazing feat because the first of those 2 games, based on a official scorer's ruling, they gave a guy a hit when it should have been a fielder's choice, or it shouldn't have been registered as a hit. So the first game could have actually been a no-hitter, but that would have had to have been after the fact because they appealed it, and well, at least they didn't appeal it to Mr. Goodell.
Well, he's not in charge, but this guy, R.A. Dickey, he was like a bum. He didn't start throwing the knuckleball, so he's throwing almost 100% knuckleballs, and that's what makes it even more fantastic. The other thing, he's thrown 2 one-hit shutouts with over 10 strikeouts, which is remarkable. Mm-hmm. He's 11-1 right now. In theory, if he just maintained what he did, he would be a Cy Young contender, let alone a winner. And he come out of nowhere, 34 years old, and another New York guy, talk of the town.
Well, why do you guys think that there's so many outstanding pitchers this year? Is there something going on in baseball?
That's funny that you mentioned that because I heard that talked about. This year, the first half of the season, there has been a predominance of excellent pitching performances, and hitters have slacked off. I think it's just a cyclical thing. Once the weather warms up, usually in the summer, the bats heat up. And the thing that made me think about this is I was just checking stats, and I was looking, see how old Ryan Braun was doing this year. Because he got accused of juicing last year and got away with that. And I was looking at his performance for this year. There's really not a whole lot of drop off in his performance. Mm-hmm. He's among the league leaders in home runs, in RBIs. He's among the league leaders in batting average too. So whatever he was doing or not doing last year, if he's not doing it this year, he's still playing great baseball.
And that's a great point, Chip. He not only is he doing all of that, he's having a year that can be considered MVP. But he'll never win. They'll never vote him for MVP because there's no statutes of limitation on your reputation when it comes to baseball. So those guys, once they are tainted with the growth hormones, you're done for life.
Well,
so that's a great point.
Testosterone is what.
Well, and then that leads me to to bonus gate. They're still making us think about this here. Roger Goodell heard the appeals of the 4 guys that he banned for this year yesterday, and subsequently rejected them all. And I think somebody needs to remind Roger Goodell that his last name has 2 O's in it, not 1. And he should stop acting like the Almighty and start, making a better representation of the commissioner.
They gave him the power, though. Goodell has the power.
They took away one of the O's. They did.
Right. He has the power to make his name that now. But the last CBA that we complain about, it gave him that power. They even tested it and lost. Mm-hmm. So obviously, he can do a lot of that stuff.
And this is another thing that just needs to go away as well.
I can't agree with you on that, Chip. You either need to say, okay, it's okay to put a bounty on other players and leave it alone, or you need to say, no, it's not okay, and you need to punish the people that were involved. If you took one coach, I guess will never coach football again. These guys are going to be suspended for a season. If they took, or some of them, 1 for a season, 2 for a season, some for long terms, whatever it is, okay, if it's illegal and you're going to say it's illegal, then you need to make an example and say, okay, not only is it illegal, if you do it, this is how we're going to punish you. And you need to, once you put the punishment in place, you can't let them come whine to you and boo-hoo and stuff like that. Leave it there. You did it, leave it there.
And I absolutely agree with you on that point, Mike. Here's the only thing, and then this is kind of siding with the players a little bit, but you know what? They need to show the evidence that says, you know what, this is indisputable evidence that these guys did what we are accusing them. We're not hearing any, what is the hard evidence they have? We hear that there is evidence and people have reviewed it and deemed it to be credible, but what is it? And, I think if they did that, this issue could be put to rest. And, we could move on to other things like suing the NFL for not making people aware that repeated blows to the head could cause problems later on in life.
Yeah, but you're talking in a perfect world. Smoking Jim made me into a gladiator and then an emperor. And a lot of this stuff, it goes back in history of sports. When you have a commissioner, they're the almighty God in a sense, sports God, so they get to rule on these things until somebody throws them out, till the owners don't like them and vote on him or cut his salary. Look at Judge Landis way back when he banned the Black Sox. You had some of the greatest ball players. And they had
Joe
statistics.
Jackson is still not in the Hall of Fame.
And he should be. That's one of my favorite ball players of all time. You should read his autobiography. He became a successful businessman in spite of not being able to read or write.
Wow.
And play baseball. He played baseball under other names. That's a little fiction and fact from my almanac. So I'm glad my co-hosts enjoy it. We can go on to another. Who else do you want to pick and talk about here?
Who wrote his autobiography?
Well, I'll give you. There's people right now that have autobiographies that we know, and they even admit to ghostwriters writing them. So imagine that.
Well, so we're still in the midst of the NBA.
That's for the comic relief.
Landis was a moonshiner and a bootlegger, and he was as crooked as any judge could have ever been up to that point. But what he did say when he decided to take that job, that made a lot of sense, was that he had to have absolute authority because a guy that's worried about his job doesn't make the right decisions.
Exactly.
Good point.
So that's why Goodell can do what he wants to do. They don't have to worry about the owners getting together and firing him. If you have for example, if you have Bud Selig in charge and he's worried that the next time the owners meet, they're going to vote him out of office, well, you make some dumb decisions. But if you're in a position where your word is final, then you go ahead and make the game the way you think it should be. And that's basically what happened with Goodell. They came, they appealed, he said no, that's it. I would like to go back to, before we get to the NBA, which I guess we have to.
Take about 30 seconds.
I'd like to get back to Jim's boxing matches this weekend. Personally, I think that Rod Salk is not all that good a fighter, and I'm surprised that they found somebody who will actually fight. They must have dragged this guy to a nursing home or something like that. But I would sit through an entire Rod Salka fight to see Slamming Sammy Vasquez fight for one round. This guy, outside of Monty Clay, may be the second most exciting fighter that I've ever seen. He's a very good fighter. I would not at all be surprised this guy was a world champion in one of the 10 or 20 major organizations in boxing. Sammy Vasquez is a great fighter. Actually, he's a great entertainer too. And if you want to go to these fights, get your tickets early, because he also has about 300 people that follow him around from fight to fight. And he has one hell of an entourage. He's a great fighter, and it's not out of the question that we might be able to get to talk to him for this show.
Sounds good.
I have another boxing little tip for you. There's a guy named Floyd Mayweather who wants out of prison. Did you realize that I got this assist from my brother-in-law Gary? He made $85 million last year, more than your hero Tiger Woods.
Wow.
So maybe he needs to get out of there quickly.
Wow.
Well, I can understand why he wants to be out of prison. Actually, I'm pretty sure everybody that's in prison wants to be out. It's just a guess. But
you're not on limp, Mike.
But Floyd's health is deteriorating because he's used to eating about 4,000 calories a day, and now he's only getting about 800 calories a day. And he has to drink water out of a tap.
They don't have Evian?
Is that cruel and unusual?
Yes, it is.
Do we need prison reform?
Geez.
For what he did, he needs less than that. Whatever happened about crackers? Just water. Oh, sorry.
Like I said last week, Floyd, get you a DVD of Oz. Take a look. That's where you need to be.
Yeah.
But I guess, they may get you out soon. Who knows? But even if you have to serve the entire 90 days. See, Floyd's health is deteriorating after, 14 days now? If you have to serve the entire 90 days, you still have some fights ahead of you. Well, your girlfriend's still around. The rematch, I don't know how much that's going to go for. But Manny Pacquiao lost. You might want to fight him. Bradley won. You might want to fight him. There's a lot in there. So hang in there, Floyd. Eat whatever you can. And, keep your health together because we'd like to see you fight again.
I think they ought to let Floyd Mayweather out. I think it's another case of the man keeping the brother down. Hey, listen, I was watching Goodfellas this weekend, and the Italians had their own section. Big meatballs, they was getting stuff sent in. They was easily eating 4,000 calories. Hey, Floyd, leave the brothers alone in prison. Go after a couple of the Italians, man, so you can get some good eating just like in the Goodfellas.
That's a good movie, too.
Yeah, you might laugh about the Goodfellas, but that scene was very informative. They were absolutely right. You have to cut that garlic very thin so it melts when it hits the oil.
So it liquefies.
I tell you what, one of the best meals I ever had in my life was catered before a live television show by my main man and my best friend, Magic Mike Migliore, a heck of a cook.
Yeah, well, there's only two things I do better than take pictures, and one of them's cook.
But we didn't have an opening before that. Before he cooked, we didn't have an opening on the show, but one of the co-hosts got sick, and I haven't seen him since when we hired Mike.
Is that a coincidence? Is that a conspiracy?
He was on his way out anyhow.
After he ate. What haven't we covered here tonight?
Well, what haven't we covered? The U.S. Open was played this past weekend.
Whoa, Webb Simpson.
And Tiger Woods made a brief appearance at the top of the leaderboard after the first two rounds, and then dropped it on Saturday. It seemed like, all the shots that he was hitting into the short grass ended up in the high grass, and then the next thing you know, putts weren't dropping, and and he ended up bowing out. Better luck at the British Open.
Chip, you watch a little bit of golf. Does he look thinner now? Because he doesn't look as bulky.
Well, you know what? See, I got home to watch the golf tournament. That's right. I was watching the leaders. He wasn't there.
Just wondered. Serving up some nice volleyball.
Well, you know what? You can make that joke, but it's actually not true. Because no matter who's in the lead, no matter where Tiger Woods is, they always show him taking his shots because he's the only draw in golf.
Wow. No, and I'll tell you what, in the first 2 days, first two rounds, that's all they were talking about was Tiger Woods.
Right, of course. He's the only person that people tune in to see. God forbid he should just decide to hang it up because nobody would watch the golf shows anymore. And, they count on him. They depend on him. And it got to be, like I said, a dependency.
Well, and that's because, for the longest time, Jack Nicklaus was the force in golf, and he was the person that everybody wanted to either see win or lose, and if you beat him, you really accomplished something because you were beating one of the best. And Tiger's, decade of dominance was unlike anything that we've ever seen. I don't know if we'll ever see it again, but, there is no real strong figure to watch in the PGA without Tiger Woods, and he is a draw. He is the one that's going to bring in the big purses for this organization, and he looked like he was trying to make a little run, and I don't know if he's got the kind of gas in his tank that he had 10 years ago. You got to take into account he's 36 years old now, and without the help of performance-enhancing drugs. As athletes get older, their skills have a tendency to deteriorate. I'm not saying that his are, but I bet you he's not, as accurate or hitting the ball as far now as he
He
did
was
10
taking
years ago.
something. Are you serious?
No.
Come on.
And you don't have to be on performance enhancing drugs to go into your 40s. And Roger Clemens pitched into his 40s very effectively.
And you know what? He was found not guilty.
Not guilty.
You know, and then and even that verdict. You know, I mean, does anybody really believe that he didn't?
B12 shots.
HGH, testosterone, broccoli and cauliflower.
But you know, we'll see how much people believe that he didn't have anything to do with it when his name gets on the ballot for the Hall of Fame and he gets an 18%.
Yeah, but we already established that those are morons voting for that.
Yeah.
So who cares what they say? He's in my Hall of Fame.
And now we got the NBA Finals, Game 4 tonight.
Whoa.
Miami, Oklahoma City, and I will predict that Oklahoma City will send the game back to Oklahoma by winning tonight. They're gonna shut down the Heat defensively, and Kevin Durant's gonna show what he's made of.
Woo! Well,
Got to go out on a limb, man.
yeah, that's true.
Got to be bold.
I think a lot of times experience is, the telling factor. You don't forget this is LeBron James' third time at the dance. And these NBA finals is beneficial to the visiting team. Those guys have not played real well, and they're still winning up. I mean, the series could be 3-0 Oklahoma or 3-0 Miami, but I really look for it to be a close game. Don't forget, the one thing that people have not talked about is the outstanding defense that LeBron James is able to play. He's playing great defense, and when they put him on Durant, it's a good matchup on him. They're allowing him to be very, very physical. They're allowing him to foul on the last play of the game and not be called for the foul.
Looks like Big East basketball.
There's a little bit of controversy regarding LeBron James and his defensive prowess, because another member of the NBA All-Defensive Team is a gentleman that plays for Oklahoma City, and I can't recall his name, but he made the comment about LeBron James that he can play defense for maybe about 2 or 3 minutes at a crack, but he can't play 48 minutes of defense against Kevin Durant.
No.
So and LeBron's response to that was he said that the person that made the comment was stupid, and it was a stupid comment, and the fact that a reporter brought a camera up and a microphone in front of his face and asked him about it, I don't know how intelligent that was either. But
He's very well spoken, LeBron.
Well, that's the thing. That Kobe who was talking about it, he's only been speaking English for 4 years, and they said he still has trouble with the language. So he was misspoken on that. Because he's on the all
they're trying to put
defensive.
some type of controversy, generate some more, attention for the finals. And this is a finals that's actually worth watching. And if you've got a minute, put the basketball game on. You might stay awake for 20 minutes longer than you would the golf tournament.
Well, I think that what they ought to do tonight is, I think that they should, if I'm a program director, I think what I'm going to do is make this the first episode of Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks is coming to Miami. I'll bring Reggie Bush there to sit him at courtside with Lil Wayne. Oh, no, Lil Wayne won't be there. But, I just think this is a great time for Miami, not only in terms of basketball, but in terms of football with the Dolphins, who I think has one of the worst teams in all of football, but yet and still Hard Knocks will be there doing all the filming. So I think it's going to be good. Bosch is playing a lot better. He's healthy now. And for those guys to do what they did without one of their better premier players, it says a lot about the Miami Heat future. And nobody's talking about how poorly the coach is. Everybody was talking about before how the coach ought to be replaced by Pat Riley, but I don't hear those same complaints anymore.
Smoking Jim, you guys taught me since I'm an amateur here. When you get the W, everything is fine. And he's getting the W, just like I'll go out on a limb again. Miami wins tonight. They may go back to Oklahoma City there, but they win the series also. I'm staying with
Well, you know what? The Eric Spoelstra, the head coach of the Miami Heat, I honestly believe if the Heat don't win the title this year, then he's going to be the first casualty because they're not going to fire the team, okay?
Right.
You know, and they're going to hold him responsible and make him a scapegoat. And I really don't think he has a whole hell of a lot to do with running the team. He's just the guy that puts on the suit and runs around and waves his arm during the game. Because Dwayne Wade and LeBron, no, I got this, coach. Sit down. You know?
Well, Jim's right. You don't hear it now. But if they would happen to lose this series, you'll hear it loud and clear afterwards. And as far as like you talked about maybe going to sleep or the ratings or something like that, if they want to keep the ratings up, they can say that at the end of the game, LeBron will make an announcement where he's going to play next year. Even though he's already under contract, you don't need an entire show for it, but you can do it after the last.
That was a big. That was good for the ratings.
Here's a thought that I've been thinking about, and I've heard some discussion about this. But the NBA had I believe it was a 60-game season this year. They started in mid to late December. Do you think it was a better product on the floor for the NBA this year, or is the NBA better when they play the full season? The whole 80 games.
I don't know. Maybe Stern ought to ask Jim Rome about that.
Oh, yeah.
Rome's burning. Well, it comes down to the bottom line, Chip. What did the owners make in the 60-game season? That's what would determine. It doesn't matter about.
Well, they made more than they would have had they written the season off. Okay.
Right, but not as much as a full season. Then.
No, and obviously
it goes back.
You've got an extra time. You've got an extra 10 or 15 home games. Yeah, it's going to put more money in the owners.
You answered your own question
but,
there.
Were we seeing a better product on the floor?
It doesn't matter.
I don't know if I really saw a significant difference.
I think you got the same product, just not as much of it. And the 60-game season instead of the 80-game season actually has probably helped guys like LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, who put a lot into every game. And now they play 20 less games. It's in the playoffs. They've got a little bit more left than they did last year.
And basketball's alive and well all over the country. I mean, whether the series ends in the next game or two is no problem because you got the Pro Summer League featuring the Pitt players over there in Greentree twice a week. So you'll be able to see your Pitt Panthers before they go to the ACC. You can see them over there in Greentree. I think they got their 7-foot incoming freshmen over there playing now. They're not allowed to get jobs, but for some reason they can make their way to Greentree.
It's only about 5 miles from Oakland. Just come up the Parkway. Come on.
It's tough on the bike.
Oh, they don't bike. I think I saw some limousines coming up there the other day. None of them were driving, though. So, what's the deal on that?
So Jim, like, what's going on over at the Steelers headquarters? I know that they've had people in for what is it? Team activities. Is there any life in the offensive line?
Well, they had the mandatory mini camps, which is great. I think that what Magic Mike has said also is the Castro, is going to be great. He's going to be hard on the sports writers because if you don't ask this guy a question, you're not going to get anything but a one-word answer. He's a no-nonsense guy on the offensive line, which is going to be good. The surprising thing is the talk over there, should they extend Mike Tomlin, which he just signed a contract last year. Maybe they're not looking to extend him because the coach in waiting is Todd Haley. He seems to be doing everything, and Mike Tomlin don't seem to have much of a say-so offensively. We know he don't have a say-so defensively because Dick LeBeau runs that side of the ball. So I'm trying to figure out what he really does.
How's Todd Haley's wardrobe?
Special teams.
How's Haley's wardrobe and haircut? Because if he's improved, then you might be right that he could be a head coach.
Well, I'm sure.
What's your scouting report on his attire?
He buys his clothes at the same place that Bill Belichick buys his. Okay. Already wrinkled.
And, on another note, Ben Roethlisberger has his football camp this week, and one of the things that I was reading after reading that his wife bought him a golf trip to Scotland and Ireland to get him out of the house for a little while. is that his summer football camp gets 500 kids in it, and what the wish of every one of those kids that comes into that camp is they want to catch a pass thrown by Ben Roethlisberger, and that's one of the things that he will do. He will throw a pass to every one of those kids that showed up on that camp, and I tip my hat to him for throwing the kids a bone.
What's it cost for that?
That's what I was going to say.
I have no idea.
About 500 kids.
I have no idea. I don't have a child.
You had Brandon Marshall come through a few weeks ago and do a free camp for the kids. Mike Tomlin does a free camp for the kids. And Big Ben does a free camp. Anything over the first $500 he pays. So kids got the first $500. Anything over that, Big Ben will pay.
That is considerate.
Okay. Well, that's kind of
and you can't. And they turn kids away because they only take so many kids, and it's a long wait.
A couple of years ago, before he had his little bathroom incident, they had it up at the Mars High School, and I was driving my work truck to get back there to a housing plan, and I mean there was just people everywhere. It was like there had to easily be 5,000 or 6,000 people around this high school field.
Wow.
So I mean it draws a lot of people. I guess he moves it around to different high schools in the North Hills. I guess in a fairly close proximity to where he lives.
And Big Ben needs a vacation after all those hard studies he was doing to get his degree.
Well,
to get another degree.
No, he had to decipher Don Haley's playbook.
Yeah.
Do you have an update?
Rosetta Stone.
Did he get his master's yet? Is he working on it?
Well, what they're concerned about, and Chip made a great point last couple of months, they're just concerned that, I'm not a big fan of spring football. I think it's really a waste of time. But, however, this year, being that it is a new playbook and a new offensive coordinator, I think it's really pertinent for a guy like Mike Wallace, who's from Mississippi, and we know that there's never been anybody that split the atom from Mississippi. They'd be lucky to be able to split a peanut. He needs to be in there. The learning curve is going to be steep, and I think that he's really going to hurt himself by not coming in. I've always said that the tender was $2.5 million. That may seem soft, but he's never made over $500,000, so that is a nice raise. It's guaranteed money. He should be in there and getting a swerve on.
Well, he didn't sign the tender, so now does that mean that that he has to play for the league minimum? The 2.5 or 2.7 million that he was offered in the tender, if he doesn't sign it and get in, I mean, then he's stuck for playing for what? I think he made a big mistake, A, by not coming in, and B, by not signing the tender.
Well, Kevin Colbert has threatened to start lowering that offer, if Mike Wallace did not sign by this past weekend. Again, somebody other than Mike Tomlin is speaking on behalf of the team. Again, I'm still wondering what Mike Tomlin does.
Do you believe in conspiracy theories? Because I'm going to start looking for this now.
Wallace took a shot. I guess he thought that there were going to be a bunch of other teams rushing to get to him. That might happen next year, but not this year. Not when they have to give up draft picks for him. They'll wait till next season when he's done with the Steelers contract. He's unrestricted, and then there might be a rush for him. There might be somebody out there might overpay him, but there's no way you're going to overpay this guy, get him in there, and then give up draft picks.
Well, what I can't understand is that everybody says that we want to re-sign this guy. If you want to re-sign him and he wants to play here, then where's the problem? And I mean, there is another option. The Steelers could try waiving him, and there's something that happened this week that Bill Belichick is up to his old tricks again. With Alex Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, he's got 2 Pro Bowl caliber tight ends, and the Giants took a risk. The guy that helped them to win the Super Bowl last year, a guy named Jake Ballard, who was their starting tight end and their tight end of the future, injured his knee in the Super Bowl, and they were not looking for him to play this year. So Coughlin waived him in the interest of waiving him, and then they could put him on the PUP list for this year, knowing that they're not going to have him for 2012, that they'll have him for 2013. Bill Belichick snatched him up off the waiver wire just to put him on his roster, just to put the screws to Tom Coughlin. I guess this is his way of saying thanks for beating me in the Super Bowl.
And that ain't the only people that he put the screws to. I mean, the guy, Belichick, is a genius. And like I said, a lot of people downplay Spygate. I always say that I think Spygate was worth 6 points. And if you look at the Super Bowls that they won all their Super Bowls by 3 points. And without Spygate, they lost them all by 3 points. So if you put the 6 points on there, they're undefeated in Super Bowls. You take the 6 points away, and they haven't won any Super Bowls yet. But he also put the screws to New Orleans. I think Drew Brees is one of the most selfish guys to ever play in the National Football League. They've already offered him the highest paid contract in NFL history, and he still won't sign it. They're up against the cap. They're only about $3 million under the cap. But when Bill Belichick signed Gronkowski, who's from Woodland Hills here by way of Buffalo, he signed for $57 million. A tight end that's just as good as him, Graham, who would be the single-season all-time leading tight end in NFL history if it was for Gronkowski beating him out by a few yards. His contract is basically up, and they can extend him because they only have about $3 million under the cap after, pretending what they already offered Drew Brees right now. So Graham, who's outstanding, probably will have to pay for minimum wage one more year.
Drew
so
Brees,
Belichick did a good job on that.
Drew Brees is just holding out because there's no guarantee that there won't be bounties placed during training camp.
I know the Saints are calling for the rallying point around this bonus gate and everything like that, but I think maybe Drew Brees knows that this may not be the easiest year in the world for him behind center with the New Orleans Saints. I think that's going to be a team in turmoil all year. I don't expect them to make the playoffs this year, and I know it's a pretty bold statement, but they've got a lot of people being suspended. There's a lot of things going on there, and I think it's going to affect the play on the field, especially if you can't get your team leader and your star quarterback in the fold.
And I never go to New Orleans anyway to watch football. I go there for the beads.
Mardi Gras time. But you heard Chip the Prophet Hayner making his bold prediction like he did the Giants last year. So we might have to listen to that one, Chipper.
True.
You might be onto something, the Prophet.
I don't know. Sometimes you just get lucky.
Okay, well, maybe get lucky twice.
Well, next week, Chip's not going to be with us.
Wow.
I suggest everybody tune in anyway. I know
Yes.
you're going to miss him, but we're
Absolutely.
going to take a shot at getting one of my all-time favorite guests, Eddie Jeffries, to come on in. Eddie is as knowledgeable about sports as anybody I know outside of me and Jim, and he's a great guy to talk to. I think you're going to want to tune in and see what he has to say. Jim, you know Eddie fairly well. Co-hosted a show with him on Whammo.
Yeah, Eddie Jeffries' nickname is the walking, talking internet. The guy's just a wealth of knowledge, a great guy, nice guy. We're going to, change the complexion a little bit of Bethel Park next week with Eddie here. And
You mean the conversation or is it the content?
Looking forward to it, and I tell you what, we may even get into a story when we invited Mike McLeory to Whammo, and they had to almost
I
find
know
out
one
out of
thing,
there.
we're going to have to change the seating arrangements because in Bethel Park, if you have two black guys sitting next to each other, that's a riot.
You might get away with that. As long as we were red on the ends here, we're fine.
Well, anyway, guys, it's been a great show. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next week on Pittsburgh Sportsline.